let's listen to a different song. Folks, that is House of Heroes, Independence Day for a Petty Thief, off their new album Suburba, which is debuting August 3rd. Be there or be square. House of Heroes, you're welcome. You guys think it's funny? I'm not sunburned, except for on the very tip of my nose. I have the sunburn because this past week I was in New York, and what we did in New York for 2 of the days was we stood on the street in these dorky red aprons and we asked people if we could pray for them. While we were in New York, besides the pear station thing we also did a little bit of street evangelism with sidewalk talk. That was really fun. And we went one day into Tompkin Street Park just to talk to people, get to know the needs of the area. We were supposed to go out in 1s and 2s so we could have really personal one-on-one conversations with people. So I had some interesting experiences. I talked to an ex-con who was doing community service because he broke a cop's jaw. I didn't know that when I was talking to him. He was very nice, actually. He's from Arizona. His name's Sean. You can pray for him because he was pretty cool. You're not praying for him just because he was cool, but because it's good to intercede for people. The other person I talked to, I never caught his name. He was nice. Maybe a little too nice. He tried to hold my hand and said that he would pay my rent if I let him move in with me. And so after that experience at the park, I was just kind of like, why are we doing this? This prayer station stuff, this street evangelism stuff. What does it do, really? And so this prompted my question. Is relational evangelism more effective than street evangelism? That's the common perception of evangelism. That the best way to let our light shine before men is so they can see our good works that glorify our Father in heaven. And to be a living testimony, it takes getting to know people, to know where they stand and how you can speak into their lives, words that are where they're at. And so I think people tend to think that relational evangelism is more effective because when you become friends with someone, you have more at stake. And I think those earthly relationships are a mirror of the kind of relationship we need to have with God. So we went into Tompkin Street Park, and afterwards we were debriefing with our leader, and she was like, not many of you got to share the gospel, huh? Like, only our... Actually, one of the youth leaders that came from our church, he led 4 people to Christ on this trip because he was possessed with some crazy holy boldness. But she challenged us. We were going back out with brownies to pass out to people. She challenged us to share the gospel. I'm sitting there and I'm like, this is so lame. This is New York. People think we're stupid. We're not being a good testimony of the gospel. We're just being pushy evangelicals trying to shove our religion down other people's throats. That's how I thought the other people outside must be viewing what we were doing. And I was really getting like, why are we even doing this? This is a waste of time. We could be helping people, not trying to shove religion down their throats. Kind of bummed out when we walked out there. I'm thinking of her challenging us to share the gospel. I'm like, I don't want to. I do not want to. But we had our brownies, and I was paired up with this girl, Laura, and she walks up to a guy she had been talking to earlier that day in a park. He was with his 3 friends. We hand them out brownies, and she starts talking with one of them about the gospel, which gave me a door to talk to another one of them about the gospel. Like, we're sitting there talking about Jesus, how Jesus was the Son of God, how Jesus died for our sins, now there's no barrier between us and God. We're sitting there talking about not just the gospel, but other in-depth theology. And I'm like, how did this happen? And we left the park, and I was just like, first of all, incredibly convicted, but second, just in awe of the power of God. That we were able to walk into the park and have these deep spiritual conversations with people we didn't even know, strangers, really. And the rest of the week, I saw street evangelism work. So I no longer view street evangelism as an ineffective mode of evangelism. The one thing I really became convicted to understand during this trip is that, well, it was more a reminder. This is something that my pastor talks about all the time. This is something that I believe to be true, and yet I constantly have to be reminded of it. That it's not about us. We are tools of God to speak the gospel into other people's lives. And though we are blessed to be used, ultimately it's God that does the work in people's hearts. And sometimes he uses relationships to bring that about. And sometimes he uses a stranger on the street asking if they can pray for you. And I feel so silly for ever having presumed that a certain mode of communication was more effective, when really it's God that saves people. God is what makes our efforts effective, not how we do them or where we do them or who we do them to. These methods are irrelevant. If we are led by God to do something, he will bless it. How did I forget that?